Good time of the day, gentlemen. It is currently almost 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 12th, but I am pre-recording the introductory video for the day 3 lesson plan, which will be Friday the 13th. Oh, damn, really? Friday the 13th and Monday the 16th for our regular biology lesson plans. Okay, so we are continuing our investigation in how DNA works. So yesterday, or last time, you looked a little bit at the structure of DNA and its bonding structure, how you have the nucleotides forming the rungs of the ladder all the way down. And what's key is that each of those nucleotides, there's 4 different flavors, if you will: adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. Cysteine? Wait, is it cysteine or cytosine? All right, double checked. It is cytosine, not cysteine, which is what your review quiz that I made for you labeled it as. They're related to each other because one is an amino acid which is involved, but the cytosine is the nucleotide. Anyway, the point is that it's the C in the DNA code, like so. Just got this off Amazon. Luckily, purchases are still being delivered, but it probably came from China. So these 4 nucleotides, and these are molecules, pieces of molecules, get put together to form that DNA ladder. But what's really interesting about them is that these nucleotides also act as code, and they physically are a code that the cell reads to build things inside the cell. And that's what we're looking at with the lesson plan today, is what does the cell do to read the DNA, transmit that information from the nucleus to the rest of the cell where all the pieces are that everything is happening, and then how do those instructions get read in order to put things together. To visualize this, normally I have us play around with the Legos like I had us use last semester to kind of tie that thing together, but obviously you may not have Legos at home, and I do not have them here. But what I do have are these cool, like, magnetic tile blocks. Sometimes they're called Einstein tiles. I don't know. They're these little flat blocks that have magnets in them that you can use. They're really cool. I have these for my friends' kids when they come over, or also maybe myself. These cool blocks that you can use and snap. I swear they're easy. Aha! So you can stab them together with the magnets into shapes like this. And they come in different shapes. I got this one as a triangle, so you can make like a little house. That's cool. Or you can take 2 triangles together and make different things. The point being, each of these individual structures can get added together to make larger, more complex structures, or then broken down and rearranged to form other sorts of structures. This gets back at that idea we talked about last semester of the idea of monomers getting added together to form larger structures known as polymers. Well, what's important is that in the cell, obviously we can put things together in different ways, but the same pieces can be used to make different structures. So if you want to make something specific, you need to read the directions and read the instructions on what to do. What you're basically looking at today is how that set of instructions, the DNA, is used to tell the cell how to put other molecules in the cell, which are amino acids, how to connect them together in long sequences that form a larger polymer structure. Throw it on the ground. They form a larger polymer structure known as the protein. So I think we're going to look at this, just an intro to this, and we're going to review this concept a little bit more next class period as well. I have a couple online activities that normally we do or like digital activities I normally do in person as part of this really cool lab that, I don't know, maybe we can work it in if we're able to get back in time. If we need to extend time off or out of class time, we'll see. So on your agenda today, there's a copy of my lecture slides that you can read through. I've linked to 2 videos illustrating this idea of transcription and translation. Transcription is when we take the information that's stored in the nucleus and copy it down onto a little piece of paper, and then that piece of paper goes out into the cell for the cell to read it, and the reading of the paper is called translation. So transcription, copy the information onto a portable molecule. Translation is when you read that little piece of instructions and build something from it. So I got 2 short videos on that. There's also two good Amoeba Sisters videos. One overview of transcription and translation that they do, and another one about how to read a codon chart. A codon chart is like the cool secret decoder ring of understanding the DNA code. So like I got this little decoder tool here from a role-playing game I did a couple years ago where you can see, oh, like I've got this symbol here, like what does it mean? Like I got this symbol here, what does it mean? So a codon chart is kind of like that in that you have your initial symbols, which is your the nucleotides of your, and specifically the nucleotides of your mRNA, and what specific amino acid matches up to each of those sets of symbols. So watch the video, explain it a little bit more. One thing I always emphasize to everybody when they see this chart is they're like, oh my God, do we have to memorize this? No. You would never, ever will have to memorize a codon chart. I have friends who are scientists and geneticists. My roommate Erica, who's currently downstairs because she's also working from home. She's a neuroscientist. None of them have ever had to memorize a codon chart. You always have a copy given to you to refer to, but you have to know how to use it. And so this video here will walk you through how to use that. And there'll be hopefully a couple more assignments where we can practice that a little bit, because that is something that I do like to have show up on tests. There is a progress quiz with a couple multiple choice questions to test yourself at the end. There is also a check-in discussion. What I'd like to do is, because I'm getting a couple emails from people, that's good, but some people are asking questions that apply to everybody. So what I'd like to do is I just open up this discussion that if you have a specific question about the content, you can post it there so that when I respond to it, everybody can hopefully see it. You can see all responses before you begin. You will get practice points for participating in it, just asking a good question. If you also have questions about anything that you've been reading in the news or things happening so far, that's a good place to post it as well, because then I can address it to everybody. Some people have been asking, should we be getting tested? Like, I think this, I think that. Ideally, yes, you should be getting tested, but you will not be able to, because there aren't enough testing kits in the United States right now for reasons. Hopefully there'll be more testing kits coming online so that we can get a better sense of who has a disease that isn't a big, a huge health risk. But what is definitely true is that this is a very contagious disease. So even if you're fine, and you probably will be, because the younger you are, the better your outcome. Even if you are fine, you can spread it to people who would not be fine, people who have are immunocompromised in some way because of other conditions or certain drugs that they may be taking, people who have other respiratory illnesses that make them just more susceptible to respiratory illnesses, and people who are older who have just a general you kind of collect conditions as you get older. So pre-diabetes, being severely overweight. Those are all situations that might make the situation with dealing with the disease worse. So you need to be aware of, if you're coming in contact with those sorts of people, that you don't spread the disease to them as well. So that ideally is the sort of information that we would find out if we had testing kits, but we do not. So hopefully there will be some soon. That is why if you read, or when you read my lecture notes, my meditation quote today is about information and how important information is freely, because it's getting information is feedback on your situation. For example, if I had my hand on a hot stove, the information that is burning myself would pass up my arm in the form of electrical signals to my brain, which would process that information and respond accordingly. If I had my hand on the hot stove and for some reason I couldn't get that information, then I could start damaging my hand really, really badly in a way that could get significantly worse. The process of science is basically a way of collecting information about the world around us that allows us to answer questions, certainly, that's cool, but also applied science allows us to respond to situations. So the fact that we are not able to collect information about the spread of this virus is, to me, as a scientist, reprehensible. And it's been very frustrating to watch. So I'm glad that everyone is realizing, well, we probably should be getting tested because, we were exposed at school. Yes, but because of political situations, you do not have access, none of us have access to a test, so I apologize for that. Anyway, that is one reason why learning science and understanding science is very important, even if you don't go on to do science, because you at some point in your lives will be able to make voting decisions about measures or initiatives or things that apply to public health, things that apply to environmental health, things that apply towards divesting money towards some funding research so that we can, people can spend the time looking at diseases so that we can come up with, cures for them early or ahead of time. All those things are part of a normal functioning society, which is a system that needs all these interconnected parts communicating and connecting in order to function as a cohesive whole. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you have questions or comments or concerns, you can post them in the check-in discussion, or you can email them to me. I'm trying to respond to emails as I can. Obviously, it's a lot of pieces to be juggling. Oh, and speak of the devil, I just got a text from one of my friends whom I was hanging out with last weekend saying, "You don't think you got exposed from your students, do you?" I really don't know. Unfortunately, there are no tests to test. Anyway, so check out these videos. Check out my health tips posted on the bottom of the agenda. And let me know if you have questions. And please remember to wash your hands.